So if you've decided that you want to stay in this beautiful paradise of Colombia, you're probably wondering what options are there for me to stay long term. In this video, we're going to cover Colombia's new Nomad visa, along with some other visa options, so you can decide which option is best for you. And I'm also sitting next to my beautiful girlfriend, Luisa. She's a lawyer and she specializes in doing visas for foreigners and also corporate matters. So she'll explain a little bit more also about the visas, the requirements, time frame. I think this video is going to be really helpful for you. The other day, actually, I saw a TikTok video that stated that in 2022, more Americans moved outside the US in 2022 than they did in the previous 5 years combined. So there's definitely a lot of people searching for like a different lifestyle to live outside the US long term. In this video, we're going to cover, what those options are, what visa options are specifically in Colombia. There's a lot of other countries offering the new Nomad visa, like Brazil, Spain. But yeah, today we're going to cover Colombia's options. And we're going to start with a digital Nomad visa. This is probably going to be the best option for, I would say, like 90% of the people. It's a really low threshold to like the requirements that you need for it. So I'm going to have Luisa explain some of these different visa types. And I'm going to give my experience on the visas that I did as well.
Yeah, so I would say, like as Kale said, I think the digital nomad visa, which is a new type of visa, it would be like the easiest way to access the country for a long period of time. So this is like classified in the work visa that you can get, because you can get a work visa if you're working for a Colombian company. Then you can stay in the country as long as you're working for that company. But also you can get a digital nomad visa, where you can be working for someone else, like in another country.
Or
but
you could be an entrepreneur too.
Exactly, and you can be an entrepreneur too, like work for yourself, but you have to do it digitally. And the only requirement is that you're doing it, like that you don't work for a Colombian company, or that like a Colombian-based company specifically. This visa is amazing because, after COVID, everyone is working online, remotely. Like companies are more open to let you work whatever you want to work, as long as you have a good Wi-Fi. So this is a really good option. And also Colombia only requires that you're making 3 minimum wages, which is less than $1,000.
It's like $700 or $800. And I think it's one of the lowest thresholds of countries offering this. So it's super, super easy.
Yeah, it's like a really low amount that you need to prove that you're making, compared, for example, to other countries that just implemented this visa recently, like Brazil. In Brazil, you need to prove that you're making $1,500 to live in the country, but here in Colombia is really little amount. Also, you can get this visa for up to 2 years, and in those 2 years you can live in Colombia as long as you're making your income from another place.
Mm-hmm. And this compares to, so you can have a tourist visa. You can be here on a tourist visa for up to 6 months. So you enter the country, you're given 3 months. After those 3 months, you can apply for another 3 months. So a total of 6 months of the year in Colombia. You cannot, however, spend 6 months, go outside the country, do a visa run. That's not an option. It's 6 months total of the year. So if you exceed that, you're gonna have to do, another visa, student visa, digital Nomad visa. Again, I think the Nomad visa is the best option. It's the lowest cost option. And especially if you want to be here for an extended period of time, and not have to worry about, going outside the country, living in another country. If you want to stay here for a year, more than a year, this is definitely one of the best options. As I said before, there's also the student visa. This is what I did when I first came. I did 6 months on a tourist visa. And then I applied for a student visa, which gave me another 6 months. And you can do this with any university. I did it with EFIT, and it was basically language classes. So I got to learn Spanish from it, and I also got a visa out of it. The cost, I believe, this was 3 years ago, so it's probably changed a little bit. The costs for the classes were, I think, $600. And then, of course, I had to pay for the visa and a lawyer to do it. I think overall the total was around $1,500 for that. That could be an option if you don't really have online income. But I mean, if you have online income or remote work, I still think the Nomad visa is the number one option for everyone.
Also with the student visa, as Kale did it, you can get a Spanish language course or up to a master's degree that can last for 4 years, and they're going to give you that visa for the time frame that you can prove that you're actually starting for like an education center or a university or whatever in Colombia.
So the third, probably most common type of visa that you can do is an investment visa. This is what I have now. And there's actually a few different types of investment visas. So one is a business investment visa. The other two are like real estate investment visas. So the business investment visa, basically you have to move when I did it, it was 27,000 USD into a Colombian bank account. That gave me 1 year in the country. After that 1 year's up, you then have to apply again or like to renew it for another 2 years. Basically, they want to just make sure that you're actually like investing in the country, doing business operations in the country. Yeah, that gave me another 2 years. And I think after that 2 years, I can then again reapply for another 2 years. But for the business investment visa, the requirements, it's 100 times the minimum wage, which is about 110 million peso. So right now, I think it's actually less than when I did it because exchange went like way up. So right now, I think it's like $22,000. So that's another really good option if you want to do like Airbnb or some sort of like business in this country. It's a really easy option. This one does take a little bit longer to apply for. When I did it, it took, I think like 4 months to do everything, like the paperwork. So yeah, definitely make sure you give yourself plenty of like time to apply for this. One last thing that I forgot to mention too about the business investment visa, you also have to open a company in Colombia. It has to be registered in Colombia. It can't be in the US. So yeah, that's just one more requirement is you open a company that allows you to open a bank account here. And then you basically move that money into the country. Now moving on to the last two kinds of investment visas. These are real estate related. I'm going to have Luisa explain the requirements for these.
So besides the business owner visa, you can also invest in real estate. You need to buy property here in Colombia. That property has to cost more than 350 minimum wages, which is around 360 million peso. I don't know how much is that in dollars?
70 to 80,000 depending on the exchange.
Yeah, 70 to 80,000 dollars, and the property has to be under your name and your name only. The thing with this visa is that you have to prove the investment and like moving the money with the national bank, which can be a harder process. And also there is the other visa, which is the investment visa. You don't have to specifically invest in property. You can invest in whatever you want. But in this case, you need to invest 650 minimum wages, which is around 670 million peso. And you also have to prove the investment with the national bank. In this case, with this visa, you can like move forward to be like applying for the residency and having like Colombian nationality. This is like the only type of visa where you can apply for that if you really, really want to like see yourself living like long term in Colombia, like I'd say more than 5 years. This would be ideal, but you know, you need to invest this amount of money and prove it to the national bank. As Kale was mentioning before, like these investment type visas take longer to process that, for example, the Nomad visa, the student visa. Like the Nomad visa and the student visa take around a month, a little bit more. And you can also, the good thing is that you can apply to these visas while you're like in the country. So you have to prove that you're legally in the country, like maybe with your tourist visa or like staying in the country, and you can still apply for the other visas. Another good thing is that after COVID, they implemented the digital visa. Before, after you did all the process of the visa, you had to travel to Bogota, which is the capital city of Colombia, to have the visa stamped in your passport. But after COVID, they just implemented the digital visa, and you have like your visa in a digital, like a digital paper, like online, so you don't have to go to Bogota to get it stamped. And they still have like this thing, even after COVID has like passed and everything, you can still get your digital visa.
Yeah, I'm so glad that they did that because when I did it, I had to go to Bogota like a couple times, and it was just such a headache to do. So I'm glad that Colombia finally caught up with 2023. The real estate visa, that's good option too, because like I get a lot of questions, and like seems like there's a lot of interest in investing in Colombia, and especially Colombia real estate. Like historically, the values have moved up like 10 to 15% per year, real estate. So it's, a really hot market, even with petrol, still really hot, still, a lot of transactions going on. So yeah, it's a great option if you're wanting to invest in Colombia.
The only thing with investment visas is that like they're gonna give them to you for like a period of 1 to 2 years, and then if you wanna reapply, if you want more time in the country, you need to prove that, like for example, with the business owner visa, that that your business is working in Colombia, that you're hiring people, like that actually that money is being like circulating in the Colombian market. The same if you buy property, for example, you cannot sell it, or yeah, you cannot sell the property. You need to prove that that property is under your name and your name only. And the same with you when you do the investment visa for the 650 minimum wages. You have to prove that that investment is working. Like you cannot like bring the money and then take it back to your homeland. You need like the money needs to stay here, and that investment needs to move like the economy. Otherwise, you're not gonna get your visa extended or renewed. The one thing is like in Colombia, you don't get the visa extended or renewed. You have to always reapply. But if you reapply the second time, then there are gonna be more requirements, and the process is gonna be a little bit harder and longer because you have to prove more things.
And I would also say that as the years have gone on, the difficulty also has gone up as the years have gone on. It seems like every year they're making things a little bit more difficult. I remember when I first got here, like things were super easy, like my student visa. I got that and I didn't even go to the classes, to the Spanish classes. That's why my Spanish is so bad still. But yeah, every year they're getting a little bit more difficult. Also with the marriage visa, that's probably the last option that there is. There's also like the retirement visa, which we'll cover too. But with the marriage visa, when I first got here, I knew some people that had that. It was really easy. They married a Colombian that they didn't even know. And they got that visa. It's pretty much a lifetime visa, right?
Yeah,
like you get the nationality. Now in 2023, you have to prove that you're with that person. Like you have to have photos from like 2 years prior. What requirements are there for that?
Yeah, you need to prove that actually you're in a relationship with that person. They're gonna like do interviews of both of you and like see how you interact. Of course, it's not that easy to prove that you're in a relationship with someone if you're not. But it's harder. You don't actually, for the marriage visa, you don't actually, like there is an option of you marrying the person, but also if you've been living with a Colombian person for more than 2 years, then you can also apply for like the nationality and the residency. But the process has gotten like a little bit harder. Like you actually need to have a relationship with that person, which is a little bit harder to prove.
Moving on to the last visa that we're going to cover. There are some other, but we're going to cover like the most common.
So another amazing option is the retirement visa that has like similar requirements as the digital nomad visa. You actually have to prove that like your pension or like your passive income monthly, it's at least 3 minimum wages, which is like $750.
Yeah, I think the same as.
Yeah, the same as the digital nomad visa. A really amazing visa because it's quick to process. Like the digital nomad visa, it takes around a month, a little bit more. And that's it. You just have to prove that you have this income like as a retirement option, and you can apply for it. Also, like with the retirement visa, you can like, for example, if you're married, you can extend it to your spouse or to your children if they're under 25 years, or if like your children are older, but you can prove that they depend on you, maybe if they have a mental disability or that you can prove that they depend on you.
And that visa is from 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, that visa, they can give it to you up to 3 years. So you need to understand that the Cancillería, which is the entity that processes the visas, they decide the time that they are going to give you. Like the different types of visa, like you can get up to certain amount of time, but they can decide they can give you less than time, and that's like a roulette. You could get like the maximum time or the minimum time, that would be a year.
Yeah, so that does it for this video. We just want to cover, there are like a few other different visa options, but we just want to cover the most common. If you have more questions, you can book a call. It's free with Luisa. We'll have the link in the description. And she'll go into more detail about the requirements, what will be needed for those visas. But yeah, we just thought it'd be a good video to do because it's every year, like more and more Americans are moving outside the US, especially for longer term stays. You know, before the pandemic, it used to be like they were just traveling, but with the rise of remote work, it's definitely like been more of a parabolic move. So yeah, go ahead and book a call with her. The link is in the description. And even if it's not with Louisa, like just make sure that you do your background check and work on whoever you're working with, whether it be a company or individual, because there's just so many stories of people getting scammed that we've heard of personally. We know of someone personally that got scammed for $1,500. He was going to do a visa with this person or company. He paid $1,500, never heard from them again. And we've heard of countless stories like that. So just make sure that you do your background research. And unfortunately, like in Colombia, there's really no review system. Like in the US, it's more review based. They have websites where you search for someone or a company and there's reviews, but I don't know, here it seems like there's really no review system. To just make sure you have like a resource or like someone that's worked with these people before you go ahead and like pay any money to them and work with them.
Yeah, especially like this week, we've heard so many horror stories. That's why we wanted to point it out on this video. And I don't know, apparently like everyone we know got scammed this week. So yeah, make sure you do your background research and before you work with someone.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no shortage of people trying to take advantage of foreigners, it seems like here. It just happens a lot, and seems like people are really opportunistic here. And yeah, the law system isn't, like if you get scammed of $1,000, you know someone that got scammed of $1 million, like a music artist. The process to do any sort of like recovery or legal work is years, and a lot of times like you never see any money from it. So just a cautionary tale there. But yeah, that does it for this video. We hope you got some value from it, and we'll see you guys in the next video.